Right, so this is the very first episode of the On Trade Network interviews, where we'll be doing interviews with industry professionals of note and with brand owners. So, industry professional of note that I have in front of me today, good friend Mitch Adams. Thanks, Mitch, for coming on.
My pleasure.
So Mitch, currently operations manager and beer buyer at Euroboozer, but he's so much more than that. But I'll ask you for a bit of an intro, Mitch, about who you are and what you do.
I'm, as you said, operations manager and buyer at Euroboozer, and we're a beer importer and distributor. So we work with beer brands like Stiegl in the UK, which is probably our biggest brand, but we work with loads of UK brewers as well. And pre-COVID, we were probably 80% on trade, which is something very close to my heart. And I've worked in and run pubs for a very long time. And I think my first pub job was when I was 16, and I carried on working in pubs for about another 20 years after that until I started doing other bits in the industry.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. We were talking before we pressed record that, you know, once the beer industry's got its hooks in you, it stays with you forever. So your background then was pubs and whatnot, but you also do beer writing, beer and cider reviews and podcasts and things.
So I got into writing to promote one of the pubs that I was working at, and a mutual friend of ours, Adrian Tierney Jones, convinced me to pay my subs for the British Guild of Beer Writers, and then through that I've ended up writing a book and hosting events and working with Imbibe Live to put the beer and cider hub thing together, and all sorts of different things like that, doing beer and food matching evenings, which we've done together as well, and stuff like that. So yeah.
So what beer are you drinking right now then? What's your...
I've got a very nice Thornbridge Lucas Stein, but it's actually got a Czech Pilsner Svikov in there, which is one of the beers that we're importing. We're doing quite a lot with real Czech lagers, small independent Czech breweries at the moment. So it's delicious.
Well, I'll be tapping you up for some samples, I'm sure. So, well, obviously it's been a pretty tough year for everyone in the industry, which is kind of why the On Trade Network for me was born, was to try and, you know, help get people back together, and certainly seen a real community spirit form within the group in a very short space of time.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
And you know, I set it up with the idea that we might get 300 or 400 people, and I think I checked this morning, and we got 3,600 and something in just over 4 weeks. Certainly demonstrates that there's a need for it. But what was your coping strategy? How did you yourself, and obviously the business, how did you cope during lockdown?
I mean, me myself, as you know, Ross, I had a little boy in February 2020. So for me, lockdown and being at home a lot more was working from home and being around with Sarah, my wife, has been amazing. But I actually didn't stop working for very long at all. And most of the staff have been furloughed, but there was a core. So Martin, who owns the business, and myself and Andy, who's head of sales, been working throughout along with our warehouse manager. So all the rest of the drivers and the sales team and everyone else was admin, and everything was furloughed. So we went down to skeleton team, and as and when part-time furloughs allowed, we started bringing people back to do little bits and pieces. But we had to kind of pivot the business and reinvent it quite quickly, and we were lucky that we'd already been working on a couple of bits and pieces, I suppose. But as I said at the start, we were probably 80% on trade pre-COVID. London being our heartland, probably most of our on-trade business was inside the M25, but we'd started growing outside of London, and actually managed in the last kind of 8 months to bring on a lot more bottle shops, a lot more off-trade. We worked with more supermarkets, managed to get some more listings, and we've worked with a lot of the online retailers, the e-commerce businesses, subscription boxes. So people like Beer 52 have been incredibly helpful for a lot of UK brewers, I know, but also us as importers. They've been really flexible, really good, put some great orders in, champion the beer that we've been able to get into them. So we've done a lot with our Czech brewers. There's some Czech beers going out this month with those guys, and we also do all of the non-core Brooklyn. So we got some Brooklyn beers into them last year. We got some Nicholas and Tuol when we were working with those guys. So yeah, they've been amazing, and that's actually probably that kind of stuff that we've been doing has carried us really. So yeah, that's how we managed to survive, I think.
Yeah, no, I think what was great to see is the ingenuity of a lot of businesses that diversified the way that they operate. People who would have been on trade core, never perhaps done anything like direct to consumer online shops, etc., who, you know, have probably found a market that will continue to a certain degree post COVID, because now people can access their beers in a way that they couldn't before. But do you think we'll see all of those people go back to the on-trade as well? Do you think, obviously now people have found an easy way to do it at home, are we going to get those people back?
Look, I was in the pub on Monday,
Good.
and that was my priority, as you can tell, rather than the haircut. And do you know what? Hearing people in the beer garden. So I was at my mate Dan's pub, the Arnos Arms, just up the road, and it was just full of people laughing, chatting, loads of banter. They're all taking the mickey out of each other, but they were so happy to be there. You can just tell it was such a lovely atmosphere. So I don't think people will stop going to the pub. You know, there's so many people that really need that human interaction, and yeah, I know I've missed it. I know you've missed it, and I don't think it's just people in the industry that have.
I almost think as well, and I don't want to get too political, but you hear about all of the, I think it's absolutely right that people need gyms to be reopened, because, people need their fitness, and, there are people that's their only means of escape from things, and their mental health. But I think it's probably been underestimated how much of a benefit the pub and the social aspect is for people and their mental health. I don't know whether you felt like it was being forgotten about.
I think maybe because we're in a bit of a bubble of people that do understand that and work in the industry. I didn't feel like it was being forgotten about in that respect. I think it is incredibly important, and I think one of the things that probably has been highlighted is how many people, particularly who live on their own, rely on social interaction in the pub or the gym, as you mentioned, but wherever their release is and wherever their social interaction is, that is hugely important. I'm lucky. I've been working throughout. I've had my little boy and my wife to keep me company and all of that, but there's a lot of people that haven't had any of that, and I've been craving the pub and meeting up with people and seeing seeing. So yeah, if I was living on my own, I think I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I think we're incredibly social creatures. Those of us who work in this industry, you know, I've worked from home through most of it, and Zoom has become a great tool to speak to people. But it's not the same as we are social creatures. We're creatures of that habit, and getting out to the pub and meeting people and talking to customers, talking to people who are just general consumers, asking their views and watching people socialize. It's a massive part that a lot of people will have missed. And I do think about a lot of the field sales reps and the guys who'd be out on the road who've probably been furloughed for the best part of a year, because even when restrictions were eased, the last thing you probably wanted as a pub manager is to have reps walking through the door. And for businesses, it was probably hard for them to make that decision to take them off furlough for such a short period of time. So I just think, those guys have got to they're absolutely rearing to go, I'm sure. And, really look forward to getting out and about in trade with some of those people and making the most of our industry again. But so what's obviously the industry's been hit pretty hard. The on trade has taken a battering. There are a number of pubs that have closed that may never reopen their doors. How do you think the on trade gets back on track? I mean, I do hear people talking about getting back to normal, but I think there's a new normal now. So I didn't want to use that phrase, but get back on track, get back to the best version of itself. What do you think we need to be doing?
I mean, the on trade has always been very good at adapting. Maybe not adapting to technology in the past. That's possibly somewhere where it's been a bit slower. But I think generally adapting to culture and what's going on around, the on trade has always been incredibly versatile. And I don't think that'll change. The pubs and restaurants and everybody else will adapt to how people want to use them. And it will change. People will want to use them slightly differently, but that doesn't mean they're going to stop using them. So I think we will. I think for us, with a large proportion of our business in London, we'll probably see some of that change. I think people will blend how much they're working in the office and from home, and so weekday office pints or the 5 o'clock city bars, that might change a little bit.
Yeah.
So they might have to adapt to find different ways of getting their trade. But, on the flip side of that, neighbourhood and slightly more suburban pubs, I think will pick up some of the benefit. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I remember when I was a rep back in the day, traveling around London. There was I can't remember the name of the pub, but it was a Taylor Walker pub in the financial area of London, and chatting to the bar manager there, and she said, "This is the perfect bar job for me because it's in the financial district. I work Monday to Friday because everyone goes home on the weekend." She said, how many GM jobs do you know where you only work Monday to Friday? So I think that they'll probably be looking to adapt, like you say, if there's probably less people, more people working from home. But I'm sure it'll all be all right.
I'm sure it will. But,
so what's
it is going to be different, yeah.
Yeah. What's the future? The next 12 months for Mitch Adams?
Well, we are flat out at Euroboozer at the moment. We've got a few projects on the go. Obviously, we're trying to get to grips with who's reopening and what they're doing and what they need, and whether they're got their full bar open or how they're operating. So that's pretty busy at the moment in terms of stock. But the other thing that we've adapted over the last 6 to 8 months, and certainly it's been kind of escalated since December when everything went into tier 4 and lockdown after that. We've started working with a lot more bottle shops than we ever did before, and in order to really do that, we started doing a lot more pre-orders and working with a lot of European breweries and bringing over amazing Czech and Austrian and Bavarian lagers, and we've been working with some US brands as well. So we've been bringing other half in from the States and some other pieces, and that's completely changed how we work. So we kind of have a different pre-order every 7 to 10 days at the moment, and there's probably 40 or 50 beers on that, and we need to get an order form up online and tasting notes and images and do all the marketing and everything else around that, get all the newsletters done and the copy. So that's taking a lot of my time at the moment, and that's something that we weren't really operating like that previously, certainly not on that scale anyway. But the take-up's been amazing. So.
Well, it sounds good. It's nice to hear. It really is, because, like I say, seeing businesses busy, that's exactly what we need. But will you, when Imbibe Live comes back, will you be involved in that again?
So I did 3 years with Imbibe Live, and I wasn't due to do last year. So I don't think I'll be involved. Certainly won't be involved on the scale that I have been for the 3 years previously. But I'm here. If they want me to come along, they've only got to ask.
Well, there we are. I think certainly coming to some of the workshops and things that you did, it's definitely great to be involved in. So I appreciate everything you're doing for beer and the beer industry, Mitch. And I'm really looking forward to meeting up with you again soon for a beer. So cheers.
Cheers. I'm very much looking forward to that too.
Well, there we are. Thanks very much to Mitch Adams, and I'm gonna leave him to his beer now. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. Click like and subscribe and all of those things that I know nothing about. And we'll have another one to you soon. All right. Thanks.
Well done, Ross, on the On Trade Network. It's a great thing to be a part of, and it's really great to see it flourishing. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Mitch.